Here.
Dr. Crosse.
Here. Mr. Jimenez.
Here.
Ms. Leahy. Ms. Leahy. Ms. Leahy, can you hear me?
Here. Sorry.
She's trying to talk now, I see.
That help? Or if I need my mic, is that totally mute? Everything.
Are you in the meeting?
I'm here.
This one, yeah. Okay. Is the echo still bad?
No, it's good.
Okay. Ms. Leahy?
She did say here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Meyer?
Absent.
Mr. Korberg?
Here.
Mr. Spivey?
Absent.
Okay. Mr. Turner?
Here.
Okay, so quorum of the Board of Education is present, so the regularly scheduled meeting of Monday, May 18th, 2020 is called to order. We'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and face the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Tonight's agenda has previously been distributed to the board. A motion has been made by Mr. Korberg and seconded by Ms. Como to approve the agenda as submitted unless there is a motion to amend. We will have a roll call vote.
Ms. Como?
Aye.
Mr. Jimenez?
Aye.
Ms. Leahy? Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Mr. Korberg?
Aye.
Mr. Turner?
Aye.
Thank you. Dr. Cooper Stoll?
Aye. Okay, so we will move to the consent agenda announcements since we have no public speakers registered for this evening.
Well, board members, 2 announcements. I'll start with mine, and then Mr. White will share the announcements from the HR agenda. asking the board this evening to consider as we bring through the waivers for instructional minutes as well as the civics exam, all opportunities for the school district to waive requirements that will provide a good amount of flexibility in this unique year. Special thanks to Dr. Harsey and his team for pulling this information together with regard to the waivers. Mr. White, your announcements, please.
So you'll see on your agenda tonight that we have 11 new teacher hires to go along with the 2 from the last meeting. That means we've hired 13 new teachers this month for the school district, anticipating that we will be needing them in the fall, and we're continuing to work on that. You can expect your next meeting that you will see some other teacher hires on there. One retirement tonight, and that's the retirement of custodian at Hamilton, John Sheffer. John has been in the district 41 years. It's not often that we get to talk about an employee who has been with the school district for more than 40 years, but 41 years at State Road, at the shop, at Spence, at Central, at Franklin, Lincoln, as I said, Hamilton and Roosevelt. And one of the things that John did in his career in the district that I got to participate in is that he was the custodian, head custodian when they closed Jefferson down. So he was in charge of all the furniture and making things got out to all the buildings, and we worked with him, or I did then as a principal. So very nice man, considering retirement tonight on the board agenda.
I make a motion to approve the items on the superintendent's consent agenda as presented.
Second.
The consent agenda is a mechanism used by the board to deal with routine business that must come before the body. Are there any items that the members want to remove from the consent agenda? With a motion made by Ms. Como and seconded by Mr. Korberg, the items on the superintendent's consent agenda are approved as presented. We'll have a roll call vote.
Ms. Como?
Aye.
Mr. Jimenez?
Aye.
Ms. Leahy? Ms. Leahy?
There's some chatter, but I can't see that to know.
She says she's having difficulty hearing as well.
Okay.
Ms. Leahy, is that any better?
I heard her.
Aye.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you, I heard that. Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Mr. Korberg?
Aye.
Mr. Turner?
Aye.
Dr. Cooper Stoll?
Aye. All right, we'll now move to the board consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the items on the board consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, are there any items that the members want to remove from the board consent agenda? With a motion made by Ms. Como and seconded by Mr. Korberg, the items on the board consent agenda are approved as presented. We'll have a roll call vote for that.
Ms. Como?
Aye.
Mr. Jimenez?
Aye.
Ms. Leahy?
Aye.
Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Mr. Korberg?
Aye.
Mr. Turner?
Aye.
Dr. Cooper Stoll?
Aye. Okay, now we'll move to announcements for what may be the shortest board meeting I've ever attended. We'll begin with Ms. Como.
Well, I attended the CISA 4 Board of Control meeting on Wednesday, May 6th, and we basically did
Excuse me?
the end of the year
I'm sorry to
business.
interrupt. We can barely hear you guys at the table. You all.
At all.
Okay,
Okay.
give us just a moment.
Is that better?
Correct. Yep. We can hear you.
Okay. So I attended the Board of Control meeting on Wednesday, May 6th, and it was basically the end of the year business where we had to approve health insurance and the contract for a psychologist and personnel contracts, and discussed putting in a telephone system. So always interesting.
Thank you, Ms. Como. Mr. Korberg.
I have only a couple announcements from the Public Education Foundation. You may have noticed that they are in a fund drive on Facebook called Help Close the Digital Divide, which they're trying to raise $2,000 to match, to meet with another grant to help fund Wi-Fi for students throughout the district. They currently have 1,365 of a $2,000 goal. So if you feel so inclined, or you know people who would, please encourage them to give. Also, I know the ad for the Public Education Foundation ran in the paper on Sunday, detailing all of the retirements in the district. And of course, there was supposed to be a reception and dinner on last Wednesday, but that'll be hopefully coming sometimes in the fall. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Korberg. I only have one announcement, just a follow-up on the poll that went out to get a consensus on when it would be best to add that additional workshop for June. And so it looks like that on June 15th, that was when we already had a board workshop scheduled following the regular board meeting. That will happen as planned, and then a second workshop was added for the next Monday evening at 6 p.m., and there will be agendas for that forthcoming when we get a little bit closer to. Superintendent Nelson.
Well, thank you. Last week, the Supreme Court struck down and called unenforceable the governor's executive order. I think people are pretty well aware of that. And so school districts continue to hold in place, though, as the Supreme Court's ruling did not impact most of what had been in place for public schools. And so our school district, as well as any school district in the state, remains closed through June 30th. And as a result of that, it also means that we will continue with what we had been planning, and that is to finish this year with remote learning, also finish through June 30th with remote learning. We have not made any decisions yet for what happens after June 30th and into July 1st, but our team is talking about it. There are a lot of different variables, and it seems like every day that we meet, another 15 variables get on the table. And so it's pretty complicated, pretty complex, but at this particular point, we have made no decisions about any July pieces yet, and that would include July summer school, and it would also include the start of our year-round calendars in July. So we are actively pursuing what would it take to get things started. We're making the assumption that if we were to start, we would start under the standard that we wouldn't have students be congregated in groups of more than 10. And so that's kind of the parameters. But there are transportation challenges involved, there are spacing challenges involved, and certainly with regard to just keeping our children healthy and also the adults in the system healthy, some challenges along those lines to make sure that we are ready from a facility perspective. When a student gets sick, for instance, that we are able to support the student, support the family. There are a lot of things. We are meeting with our local epidemiologists as well as the doctor that is assigned to us and consults with us along the way. There was a meeting just this morning with that individual. We're also hoping that in the next week to 10 days, we will have a meeting with the county health department to share with them at least some of the things that we have been laying out with regard to opening in July, and just see if we are moving in the right path, also to find out, are there any other huge obstacles that maybe we are not thinking about at this point. So we're going to try to get things going. We also are sensitive to the fact that our parents want to know, people want to know, and we at the same time want to wait as long as we can, but also want to be judicious in terms of letting our parents know. So I can't give a certain date that everyone will know, but we are just continuing to navigate. We are hoping that we do get more guidance from the state, and that the governor as well as others are working diligently to come up with rule-making language or rule language that would be acceptable and would help provide some guidance for school districts and others along the way. But we continue to plan. I just wanted to make sure, assure people that we're working on doing what we can to get things to open up. We don't want to do it too soon, but we also don't want to delay it longer than we have to, and it's complicated. That was my announcements. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other announcements that board members would like to make?
The only thing I can think of is Seven Rivers graduation
Yeah.
is Friday. So if you can attend, they probably would
was,
appreciate it.
wasn't it?
Virtually.
It
of
was
course.
last Friday.
Well, then I'm just losing it. It's welcome to the world of chaos.
I do think it was recorded, so if you'd like to maybe
Okay,
watch it
thank
after the
you.
fact, I'll try to get a link for you, yes.
It
It's
was
okay.
off my thing.
And by the way, I think from a board member representation at that virtual graduation, Board Member Peely Lee was there and attended, and so graciously donated, I think, pizzas to the students who graduated. So Peely, thank you so much for doing
Yes,
that. That
thank you,
was
Peely.
very generous of you.
Thank you for representing the school board so well.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the June 1st, 2020 Board of Education agenda with any additions or corrections.
Second.
A motion has been made by Mr. Korberg and seconded by, I believe, Mr. Turner to approve the June 1st, 2020 Board of Education agenda with any additions or corrections. Can we just do a consent vote for this then, or
What's that?
we don't need a roll call vote, do we?
Yeah.
If so, it's not, I don't see it on here.
I must not have.
That's
I
okay.
apologize. Yeah.
No problem.
We'll do roll call
Okay.
for consistency. Ms. Cuomo?
Aye.
Mr. Jimenez? Ms. Leahy?
Aye.
Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Mr. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Turner?
Aye.
Dr. Cooper Stoll?
Aye. Okay, board debriefing. Thanks to everyone for getting back to Laura so timely in terms of our options for our second workshop. Is there anything else anyone would like to add before we adjourn? Then we're adjourned.
I need to get back in real life so my days go normal.